Welcome. Tonight, for openers, I thought we'd do a quick study on Freemasonry. Not that it matters at this point. They have won. Their Antichrist is in place. The NWO, all of that. I know I sound like Alex Jones, except it's not liberals, and I'm not selling snake oil. And I have no current pending lawsuits for defamation. Just thought I'd let you know that for openers, although the words that are coming out of my mouth may sound quite fantastical. I understand. But what you do not understand is you are under the dominion of the man, and currently the imp, and his Antichrist. And this plays into it. And I know I told you before we would not go into the history of such things, for what does it matter now? They have entrenched and won. It's over. The empire is gone. They backed an animal, and they thought they could control him. The problem is, and I know many of them know this, yet they chose to ignore it in their arrogance. There is no beating the man. And it explains quite clearly this animal you have put forth before us to rule the greatest empire that ever existed is uncontrollable. A 5-minute study of the book of Revelation would have told you this, all of the occult knowledge that has passed your eyes. And you did not take that part seriously. Don't worry, they didn't take it seriously in 1933 when those billionaires backed Adolf Hitler. They thought they could control him too. They were wrong, and you are wrong. So let us do our quick study here. I know most of this, okay? I never did a deep study of Freemasonry. I didn't have to, son. They're symbols. If you understand symbols and where they come from, their true origin, you can pretty much figure it out what people is about, son, by the symbols, the imagery they put forth. The Freemasons, we all learned on the History Channel and other places, that Washington, D.C. is based on Freemasonry. We can tell by the architecture, the monuments, the fact that Albert Pike statues were up, the fact that Albert Pike is buried 13 blocks from the White House. We can tell by the arrangement of D.C., the monuments, the architecture. Pure Freemasonic setup. So, class, it's pretty much common knowledge, although many still don't know it. I guess I should say it should be common knowledge that all of the forefathers that started this country, not one of them was Christian, son. They were all Freemasons. Every single bloody one. How do I know? Our money, our capital, various architecture across this country. The pictures with the, the hand in the jacket, shit like that. That means something to these people. Again, I want to be clear here. This isn't what I want people to believe. This isn't what I want to be talking about. This is your fucking reality, son. I'm trying to explain it to you. That's it. I don't want to be talking about these people, but I must. For they rule, and now they are the end of us. They're finally going to get their dream, though. Novus Ordo Seclorum, also on our money. New World Order or New Order of the Ages, all the same fucking thing. This idea been around a long time. A straight satanic idea that has found its way into Freemasonry as well. George Bush Sr., again, gave the most famous and obvious New World Order speech. A Republican, a lifelong CIA man, not a liberal. By any means. A Nazi, probably. So our forefathers, our founding fathers were not Christian. Some of the peasants were Christian. That's where this bullshit, we are a Christian nation, originates from. The problem is, if you really want to be honest, son, we're a free Masonic nation, actually. All the people in charge, the people that build everything, the people that wrote the rules. Yeah, there's some good democratic values thrown in there, only because they were ruled by a tyrant king, and they didn't want to do that anymore. That's how bad it was. Even the Masons were like, you know what? Let's throw a little democracy in this thing. Fuck that king shit. We're tired of heads getting chopped off, you know what I'm saying? Let's try something else, even though we're of Satan, being Freemasons. Let's still go a more free and an open route, putting slavery and all that aside. I understand that was going on. And ethnic minorities were not looked at the same as the white Europeans as far as rights and rules go. Put that aside. Let's pretend those rules applied to everyone. That was their philosophy. Even though they were of Satan. That's how bad it was living under a king, is what I'm trying to convey to you. So unfortunately, most of the people in power are this. If you find yourself winning a $100 million lottery, you may get a phone call or a visit from someone. And they may say, would you like to join us, son? It's happened to people, and it will continue to happen, for they want the control, they want the good jobs, they want the power. They want to steer this thing, and they always have. College fraternities based on the same concept, these occult pagan clubs. Same thing, college fraternity. Same concept. They even have the Greek, names in the old way, like pagans. Again, I'm not saying anything's good or bad. I'm just explaining your world, son. You decide if it's good or bad. These people have always had the control, and they have the control, and now they got their dream called NWO, Novus Ordo Seclorum. It is now. It was never before. It is now. They say it daily. The Reich. New World Order. They're throwing that phrase around like it's fun. Like it's a good time. 'Cause why, class? Because you're the fuck in it right now. Take it seriously, son. It ain't ever gonna be the same. So I watched an interview with a man, and he basically said what I've been saying for years, and according to his story, he's been a high-level Mason. He was a satanic priest. He was a witch. He went through all these different things in his life. He has some very wild, fantastic stories that I don't necessarily believe all of. What I can tell about the man, what I liked about listening to him, he broke down all the sects of Freemasonry and what they believe and the levels and shit like that. And it's what I've been hearing for years, and it's what I know myself. From me taking a look at them. And I'm not talking deep research. The symbols on the money, the symbols in DC. That tells me everything they're about. The eye, the pyramid, the obelisk, they are ancient Egyptian symbols. They lead straight back to a thing called Satan. Somehow Solomon in summoning demons found its way into the Freemasonic beliefs as well. Very core to the high-level people, what they believe in. Again, son, not what I believe, what they believe. So I'm explaining it to you, what they believe, and that's what's important here. Not what I believe, you believe, what I care about, you care about, not important at all. What they care about, what they believe. They rule this fucking place. So it helps to understand it a little bit, I think. So this man told a lot of wild stories, but one thing I know, he has studied deeply into Freemasonry, Catholicism, Mormonism, and he claims to have been high up in the Mormon church at one time. He did all this by his late 20s. He's got story after story. I'm going to give you what's valuable. And everything he said, I've been saying over the years, and I didn't do deep research into I just knew, son, you got to know how to read between the lines. Freemasonry has always presented itself as some type of lodge or brotherhood, and that's all it is. No, it's a religion. It's satanic, and the low levels don't need to know that. Maybe some of them do. And it gets doors open for you, connections, immediate, like that. If they like you, if they want to do that for you, in seconds, you could be an executive. You might not know shit, making $300,000 a year. If you make the right connections in this club. That's why people do it. Other people are searching for something. Other people, it's a familial tradition. A bunch of different ways you could end up here. This is how this person allegedly ended up here. And what I'm really trying to give you here is their philosophies and beliefs and how their little system inside works. That's all. Not necessarily this guy's life story, because I don't know if I believe it all. He sure did a fuck ton of research, though. This is in the late 1960s, early 1970s. This person did all this, allegedly. He wanted to be a priest. So he goes to his priest that he respects. And the priest told him, if you really want to understand the priesthood and get, far in it, you need to study the occult. The exact wrong message. Which tells me this priest, which he will later explain how many priests and people in the church hierarchy are Freemasons. An utter contradiction. But I'll get to that. His priest, allegedly of God, of Christ, tells this young person who wants to be a priest, you need to study the occult. Couldn't have been a more wrong or terrible or evil thing to tell him. Because it molded his whole life according to his story. He didn't say that. I'm saying that. This was step one into his Satan's journey he went on. If his stories are true. A priest of alleged Christ and God. At least that's what the priest alleged, I'm sure. Telling a young man who wants to be you need to go study the devil. I'm sure God will reward that priest mightily for that action alone. And the priest used this justification, which I personally think is bullshit. I've heard it from a million people. Nobody knows. This is a pure guess where they get this from. The priest said this because Jesus had gone to the East to study magic and Eastern philosophy. I've heard that story a million times. There's a gap in Jesus's life, the account of it. People try and fill it in. So they send Jesus to the Far East, and he learns Eastern philosophy and magic and Buddhism and all that great shit. Unfortunately, not a fucking sentence of it is true. I can tell by what Christ preached. He had nothing to do with Eastern philosophy or anything like that. Not a damn thing. Not a damn thing to do with ancient Egyptian pagan worship. Not a damn thing. In fact, he despised it. So does God the Father. I could tell he had a different message to preach than anyone has ever preached. That's how I know he's different from all the other alleged greats like Buddha. Christ says, turn the other cheek. Buddha says, if you can do greater good, strike if necessary. In other words, if it'll save a bunch of lives, you have the right to kill someone. Dangerous message. Because you kind of got to be a psychic to know if someone's going to kill a lot of people, right? Right. Christ was utter love, peace, and forgiveness. No other prophet was that. No other prophet had the perfect life. Sinless, utterly. Not one. He is different. He is no product of Eastern philosophy. He is no product of ancient Egyptian bullshit dog gods. Get the fuck out of here. The story of Horus and all that bullshit zeitgeist, nothing like the story of Jesus whatsoever. Not a single similarity. Yet everyone walks around saying it. The stories are exactly the same. No, they're not. Not even close. They're not even remotely close to the same, son. Yet people go around repeating it like sheep. Because they want to. I know everyone's too cool for it. I thought I was too, son. Look around you. The imp is here. And so is his AC. And you best motherfucking recognize. So in other words, it's real whether you want it to be or not. Whether I want it to be. Not my world, not my judgment, not my fucking rules, son. But you best acknowledge the rules. Or you will pay. Good luck. Where was I? Oh, the dumbass priest goes and tells him to study the occult because, like other indoctrinated fools that just heard something once, Jesus allegedly went to the Far East and learned all these other pagan religions, right? That the Son of God. Get the fuck out of here. He never preached nothing like it. So that's total bullshit. And this priest learned that somewhere. I don't know where, but he damaged a young man forever with that bullshit he told him. So the guy goes to a bookstore. He lives in a small town kind of area. And there's a little bookstore, and he's trying to find occult information. Remember, this is the late 60s, early 70s. There was no fucking internet. You had to walk it, son. You had to go find the shit. So he starts off with books on witchcraft. So he gets into witchcraft. Then he becomes a non-satanic witch, which many people say they are. What they don't understand is, yes, they are. Not my judgment of you. If we are in the paradigm, I think we are, one God, there is no other. If you are practicing any other religion, you are dissing God big fucking time. No matter how peaceful and good you think it is, there is another God involved. Whether you understand that or not. Whether I like that or not, or you like that or not. Same thing I've preached for years. The name is important. The deity and his son are important. If you're doing something else, you are paying homage to something else. Some of you say it out loud, I'm sure, in your practices. One of the worst offenses to God. Outright worship of something else. Being a witch, whatever. Again, not my judgment of you. Do I think you should be burned at the stake? No, that's not the gospel of Christ. Did Christ burn witches? No, then I don't think witches should be burned. So he becomes a non-satanic witch, you know. Now, he mentions throughout the story, as he gets more into it, he lets things kind of slip. Part of his witchcraft practices were meeting other witches, recruiting other witches. They would dance naked in the woods. They would dance naked in the backyard. They would dance in their black robes in the backyard. They would do spells. They would do different magic. They would have orgies. These were the practices. Just giving you a story, man. So he becomes a non-satanic witch. He forms covens, recruits witches to join the order. He moves to a different area that's closer to a major city. I think it was Milwaukee or something, or Chicago. I can't remember which one. Owner of new bookstore in large city tells him to read Satanic Bible. Now he becomes a Satanist. A straight up Satanist. Bookstore guy or someone else pushes him toward Freemasonry. Now they keep making these suggestions. If you because this, the sense I got to this of this man, it's like he was addicted to hierarchies of different cults, including Christian religious cults as well. He made his life all about it. To become a priest of witchcraft, not just a regular old peasant witch. To become a high-level Mason, to become high in the Mormon church. It's like he was addicted to it or something. Anyway, where were we? So now he's a straight Satanist. Then he gets pushed towards Freemasonry. And he explained how 40% of pastors in the Southern Baptist Convention that he went to were Freemasons. Roughly 40% of Masons are Christian, he said in his experience throughout all these years. I showed you when I went to the cemeteries years ago on Periscope, I showed you these. Where even a pastor's gravestone was an obelisk. I was surprised by it. I remember the moment looking at it. That's a pastor has an obelisk as a gravestone? I showed you the various other obelisks in all the different cemeteries I went to. It's an obelisk, son. You know what that means, right? That's a Mason. Be he pastor, peasant, whatever the fuck he is. I showed you the woman's grave with the upside down pentagram on it. I didn't know this at the time. Again, I never studied Freemasonry that deep. I decided to go in cemeteries and look at what kind of gravestones and shit was in there. And it became a thing for a minute that I did. And I learned personally about Freemasonry from it. And how real this shit is. I already knew, but seeing it in my face was a different experience. Person after person with not a headstone, not a cross, an obelisk. In many different forms. People in clergy, businessmen, regular people. And again, then the female version. I see an upside down pentagram on one of these gravestones. On camera. And I show you. And one of you told me, I didn't know this. I didn't know what that meant when I was looking at it. I know what an upside down fucking pentagram is and what that means. Which is why it surprised me that it's on someone's fucking gravestone. One of you told me that your family had been into Masonry and that you had relatives that were into it and that was the female order of Freemasons because women aren't allowed. So they formed their own group. Order of the Eastern Star or something. I got it in here. I can't remember. And their symbol, the guy said it too. That's how I knew he was legit to a point. He verified a lot of things I verified over the years in his little speech. On point. Although his stories were wild. So that's why I'm giving you this, and that's why I took it seriously and I took some notes. And he was right aligned with everything I fucking said over the years through sheer deduction. I was never a Mason, and I never researched it, not once. Just what I've observed. He said all the same things in different, in his own way. So a lot of members of the church, the police force, firemen, people in high positions, they are part of a club, son. And that club means something, and they believe it, son, and it rules their life. Do you understand that? And they have rituals and masses and all kinds of great stuff. And they take it fucking seriously. Masons gave him a mentor with his induction. I'm focusing on the Masonic stuff because it goes on, the story goes on further, but I want to focus on this. So he gets a mentor. He said it was an executive from an electric company. And the mentor will help with his induction, you know, give him details about what's going to go on and explain what he has to do and just guide him through the process and oversee him. I told you a few years ago, I was surprised they showed this, but they're showing it more and more in our face. I can't go into it, but I'll give you one example. In movies. Getting more open with it. Robert De Niro, and I was surprised. I was surprised they put it in the movie. I was surprised it was De Niro doing it. And it was a movie with a younger man, Channing Tatum, or the other one. I can't remember. The one in 30 Days a Night. I can't remember his name. Robert De Niro says, I am a 33rd degree Freemason. And he felt the younger guy was making him look stupid in some way. I can't remember. And he puts the guy over his knee and he starts spanking him. I think he bent him over a post too and spanked him as well with some object, a wooden paddle, a piece of wood, something. And I was like, wow, they are straight up showing that older-younger male relationship in Freemasonry and what it's about. I was like, wow, I can't believe they're showing us this in a movie. And I can't believe it's De Niro doing it. I don't know shit about De Niro's personal life, whether he's a Freemason or not. I can honestly care less. I know he ain't down with Donnie shitbags. I know that. So De Niro was either playing a character in that movie or he has some experience. I'd like to believe he was only playing a character because De Niro does not seem down at all with this NWO Donnie shitbags thing. He's been one of the most outspoken critics of it, actually, in Hollywood since it began. He's hated this guy. And he has not been quiet about it. He'll get up at award ceremonies right in front of everyone and say, fuck Trump. He's done it multiple times. At the podium, on stage. So he ain't down, that's all I know. And that's good at least. Anyway, so he gets a mentor, and I thought of that De Niro scene when he said, I got a mentor, and he was an older man, an older Mason from an electric company. So the Masons asked him questions. You know, they gave him an interview. And one of the questions, if he believes in God, and he thought he was fooling them. He thought he was being sly because he was a Satanist at the time. He thought he was being sly when he said, yes, I believe in God. And he explained in the interview that, well, they didn't ask which God I believed in. So I got away with that one, you know. And you didn't get away with nothing. He learned later that they are of Satan. So that's what they're looking for. So they ask him if he believes in God, even though he's a Satanist. He says yes. He thinks he's fooling them by saying yes, but they truly worship Satan. So a mentor leads you by a rope around the neck, blindfolded, stripped down to underwear, to the doorway of the lodge or the temple. You knock on the doorman asks who it is, and the other person speaks for you. And I'm using the phrase initiate. That's not what he used, but I like it better. The initiate was in darkness and now seeks the light. That's Lucifer straight up. That's what they're talking about. The light of knowledge. Lucifer. That is their God. That's who they worship. So that's why they say the new person was in darkness and they seek the light. Oh, you seek the devil, you mean? So right from the induction is an indicator of who the God is, of what the religion is. They give it away right in the beginning. The random idiot young man wouldn't know that. Someone that's done a little bit of study in that realm knows when the word light is used, who it's in reference to almost every time. So what should it really say? This man had no God or had God, and now he seeks the light. He seeks Lucifer. That's what they should really be saying. That's what they are saying. So think about it. You're blindfolded. You got a rope around your neck or some rope type apparatus that someone is holding, your mentor person, whatever. You're stripped down to your underwear. They lead you to a door. And they say, this person is seeking the light. Can they come in? They do the rituals. They act it out, son. It's real. It's what they do, not what I do. Don't give me that funny look. The initiate is walked blindfolded through the lodge. Initiate makes his oath at the tunnel. If you reveal secrets, throat cut. This is the oath you take. They tell you if you reveal the secrets. So you make an oath not to reveal the secrets, and they tell you what will happen to you. What you're vowing will be allowed to happen to you if you reveal them. Your throat cut, your tongue torn out, buried in the sands of the sea where the tide goes in and out twice a day. And then they ask you a question. What does the initiate most desire? And the mentor whispers in your ear, light. And then you say light. Again, tribute to Lucifer. In other words, I'm seeking Lucifer. Mask is removed from initiate. During this process, a King James Bible was used. Once the mask is removed, initiate sees a giant Bible with a square and compass, either on it or near it. I can't remember how exactly his story went. The three great lights of Masonry, the Bible, square, and compass. The three lesser lights, three burning tapers by the altar. This is one of the things he said about Freemasonry, what he learned over time and what his opinion on it. Basically, Freemasonry is an antichrist thing. Masonry claims it's not religious, but it is exactly what I've been saying to you people for years when the few times I've talked about Freemasonry. They want to present it as a kind of brotherhood lodge. Come hang out. No, it's a straight up religion devoted to a thing called Lucifer. That's simple. Masonry is a religion, he said. He mentions the writings of Albert Pike and a few other Masonic authors, let's call them, or occult authors. He says all were occultists, and that Masonry is an antichrist religion. This is his perspective again. And that Albert Pike was buried 13 blocks in the Scottish Masonic Temple from the White House. And what he was trying to say is that occult world, that witch world, that Satanist world, that goes hand in hand with the Freemasonic world. A lot of them are Masons as well. Again, his perspective. And I agree, it makes perfect sense to me. Since their god is Lucifer. Now let's look at something else for a second before I continue with this. The three burning tapers or candles that he mentioned, the three lesser lights, the sun, the moon, and master of the lodge are the three lesser lights. Placed in a triangular formation around the altar, they symbolize the master's duty to govern the lodge with regularity, mirroring the sun and moon ruling the day and night. Key details, symbolism represent the sun, master, moon, senior warden, master of the lodge, junior warden, to represent order and wisdom. Location placed on high candlesticks in a triangle around altar, which contains Holy Bible, square, and compass. And this guy mentioned they used the King James. That's my favorite Bible. I didn't know the Masons used it, though. They're more interested in the parts about Solomon and the other writings about Solomon that aren't in the Bible, and the parts about Lucifer. They're more focused on those, though. Originated when meetings were held in taverns where 3 candles were used for lighting, eventually evolving into a fixed symbolic representation. They represent the lesser lights designed to instruct the initiate and illuminate the lodge's work. While traditionally wax candles, many modern lodges use LED flame effect lights for safety. The 3 burning tapers should not be confused with the 3 great lights, the Holy Bible, square, and compass. I've always noticed that Freemasonry seemed to be a light mockery of Christianity. I realized I was right when, again, on Periscope, I showed you people. I went to a place in Virginia, or right outside, I can't remember, Roanoke Rapids, Roanoke something, to this weird little town. I don't know how the fuck I ended up there. I don't remember how we decided to go there. And the town's creepy, and it's rural, and there are some interesting folks. And we go into this old house, I guess where George Washington's sister lived. And we take a tour, and I want to film. They tell me, put the camera away, son. I just put it in my pocket, and I let it record. And she gave us the tour through this creepy-ass old big house. And there was a basement. And it was rough-hewn rock from the top of the stairwell all the way down to this deep basement, and I couldn't see around the sides of the stairwell. I looked down into that, son. I got creeped the fuck out. And I thought to myself, when I looked down there and saw the rough-ass rock just going all the way down, this brick, mason work, whatever the fuck it was. And I was like, what the fuck did they do down there? I'm afraid to know. I'm afraid to ask. What the fuck type of things went on down there back in the day? And close by was this home on a little hill. And it had a huge obelisk. And it had a little grave site next to it that was fenced in with black iron fencing. And a little side grave with a couple graves. And the obelisk, son, it said Mary, Mother of Washington. And as I'm standing looking at this fucking creepy ass obelisk that was enormous for that small setup next to a house. The house had some decent land, and there was this big cemetery attached to that land out where you could drive around it and you could go inside. But it had this creepy ass obelisk. The people of the town looked, a bit inbred, I'm sorry. The town itself was creepy. The house I took the tour of, creepy. The basement especially fucking creepy. And no, son, they didn't take us down there. But it was wide open. There was no door on it, or the door was all the way open, or all the, either inwards or outwards. I can't remember. I don't even remember a door. Wide open. You could see all the stonework going down. Long stairwell. That shit was deep. And you could not see around the sides of the stairs. You just see a stone wall, rough stone wall down there. And no, they didn't take us down there. So I'm standing in front of this obelisk and I'm showing it to you people. And it just confirmed everything I thought, that it was a light mockery of Christianity. They incorporate the King James. They incorporate these concepts. And that's how I knew also. I knew from Washington's monument in D.C. as well, that the Masons view him as something really special. So I always viewed George Washington as the Freemasonic Jesus. They view him as a Christ figure. That's why he gets the obelisk as his symbol. Specifically, that is his symbol. It used to be just a Freemasonic symbol. Now it's George fucking Washington's symbol. They've ascribed it to him. That's a great honor in that world. So that tells me they view him as something very special. So I'm going to view him as the Jesus Christ of Freemasonry in their eyes. That's how I look at it. And they have son Mary, the mother of Washington. I was like, look at that mockery of Christ right there. And the mother of God. Look at that. Proved every damn thing I thought and said about Freemasonry. And no, I never did no serious research. I didn't have to. And the creepy ass, there's about 6 graves in this black iron fencing. Creepy as fuck. And then 2 other graves fenced off as well on this piece of land next to a house. Right next, I'm talking feet from the giant obelisk. I went there, I saw it for myself, I showed you, and I did that. And the cemeteries, I did that to see for myself, because I was asking myself the question at the time, how deep is this Freemason? How much a part of our society really is it? So I'm like, let's go see what the cemeteries look like. What kind of gravestones? Who's into what? And that's when I saw, oh shit, pastors with obelisks. Oh shit, a woman's grave with an upside down fucking pentagram. All Freemasonry. Then I go to that Virginia town, wherever the fuck it was, and I see that. We also went into that large cemetery, and someone followed us while we were in there. It was a short, not that tall, long hair, kind of inbred looking, white male, probably in his 20s, kind of chunky with glasses. He followed us the whole time, son, in that cemetery. As we walked around and looked at the different things, I believe some Confederate soldiers may have been buried there as well. I'm not sure. It was an old cemetery. It had new graves, old graves. It was something the town cared about. And I guess people had been watching us. Me and my girlfriend when we went there. Through it all. Because I was in that house getting a tour. And that house was very strangely lit. And it was old as fuck, and it was big. And it was just a weird vibe, man. And there was about 20 of us and the guide. And I just straight up filmed. I didn't ask permission. I just started filming. Kind of discreetly, but they noticed. And they jumped on that quick. And I don't know if that's when or somehow attention got drawn to us. And they were watching everything we were doing. I realize that now. And they probably saw us at the monument, looking at that and filming that and talking. And they must have, I don't know, maybe they thought I was doing some type of investigation. I might make them look bad. I don't know. And then we went to the large cemetery again. We were looking at the graves like we did at the other places in New Jersey, other places that we showed you. And we were followed the entire time. The entire time. It was a creepy experience, and I'm not one of those dudes, man. I was talking about rock stars and murders. I wasn't going to locations and fucking doing research on Freemasonry. Yeah, I was doing Bible stuff before the rock star stuff and end times. And I would talk about the Masons sometimes. So it's very strange that I ended up there at all. I'm not that guy that wanted to start a YouTube channel and go to cemeteries and study, go to different occult locations and show you, and, because a million other people are doing that. I have no interest in that. I know what I know just from looking, son. What that trip did for me is it confirmed it all for me. It also, I was in some creepy part of the world, man. The people were creepy. The ancestry was creepy. It was a kind of occult heaven. I realized that. A Mecca of some sort. And they did not like what I was doing. And they were keeping an eye on my ass. What that trip did for me, that again, it just kind of spur of the moment, just happened. I was on a long drive back from somewhere, and we're like, let's stop at some decent places. Let's see what we can do. See what we find. On the way back, 9 states away from where we started. It confirmed everything I thought about Freemasonry and George Washington and DC and this whole thing. And again, I'm afraid to know if that information's ever revealed to me somehow. I'm afraid to know what went on in that basement. It creeped me out. And it was deep and large. So we know what the tapers are. We know what it means in Freemasonry. We know what the 3 greater lights and lesser lights are now. And again, this is their beliefs, not mine. That's why I'm sharing them with you, because I have to. It's what the people that rule this world believe. Okay, now we're going to go back to the story, but before we do that, I'm going to take a quick break. Yeah, all I really did was, I looked how Masons presented themselves. I looked at their symbols. And the symbols tell the whole story no matter what they say out loud at a podium or to people that want to join. Worthless. The symbols tell it all, and the symbols are on the money. The Latin phrase, the New World Order's phrase. So that's been around for probably 1,000 years or something, maybe longer. That idea, that concept. They needed the future, though. They didn't know that. They know it now. And they're doing it. The symbols tell the whole story. Utterly of Satan, all of them. Every single symbol. Okay, where was I? King James Bible, the great lights, the lesser lights, the candles. Freemasonry is an antichrist thing. He said that, not me. I agree, but he said that. Masonry claims it's not religious, and it is. He said the same thing I've been saying for years. They present it as some type of, brotherhood, lodge, good time, whatever, club. No, it's a straight religion. And it's a serious one. Mentions the writings of Pike and others. He says all were occultists, and that Masonry is an antichrist religion. Albert Pike buried 13 blocks away from the White House. Albert Pike was the main scholar of Masonry late 19th, early 20th century. Almost all leading figures in the occult world of late 19th century and early 20th century were Masons. Goes hand in hand like love and marriage. That's what he said. What does that mean? Witches, Satanists. A lot of them were Freemasons as well. It went hand in hand is what he was trying to say. He talked about Manly P. Hall. That explained when you are a master Mason, you are a warrior on the block. The seething energies of Lucifer are yours to command. One of the tenets of Freemasonry. Many join for the financial benefit and connection. Doctors, lawyers mentioned, and he mentioned doctors and lawyers in the late 60s and early 70s. They weren't allowed to advertise. That's what he said. This was his reasoning. He didn't sound like a very smart man. Let's put it that way. And this was a way for lawyers and doctors to, build a practice. They didn't have customers. They weren't allowed to advertise. So you got to have connections. You got to have word of mouth. The only way you can build a practice, right? Wrong. Freemasonry has always been that club. It has always been a club that if you get in, you have a chance of having a really nice life financially. Why? Because you're in the club, son. The club already exists. There are many members much older than you with money, son. So if you a young doctor, a young lawyer, a young executive, whatever you are, they can make you rich day one. If they want to. If you're in, high enough family, well, it's guaranteed. You're on that path from birth. No matter what you do, no matter what kind of fuck up you are, you're still going to be given a title and a fat paycheck. That's the point of it, son. The point of fraternities as well. That same networking aspect. You're in the club. You're one of us. Oh, you were in Alpha Gamma Delta in college. I was too. You're hired. I'm a Mason. Oh, you're a Mason from a good family? Your dad said come on in? And I've talked to my fellow Masons in the area and, we like you. We're going to let you in. We're going to start you off $300,000 a year. You sound good? Good. So this has been going on way before the late 60s and 70s where doctors and lawyers couldn't advertise, so they needed a way to network. No. That's what these clubs were from the beginning. We get the good jobs. We get the key positions. We run the fucking world. And the devil is our God. That is what Freemasonry is. That is what all these clubs are. It's automatic for them. It's rigged for them. You don't have a chance, son. So don't be too hard on yourself. A lot of the best positions were taken before they were born. You didn't have a fucking chance. And now a job that pays benefits and decent salary, both at the same time, that's like finding a piece of gold. That's how rare it is. That's what they've turned this piece of shit world into. So no, even though this is a naive, kind of not the smartest guy telling this story that I transcribed from, again, that's what always the clubs were about. Running the world, son. They get the good jobs, they get the good positions, and you ain't got a chance. You weren't born in the right family. You're not in a club. You got to do it the old-fashioned way. You're not one of us. You're not in the light. You're in the dark. So many joined for the financial benefit and connections. He said many Masons came to him because they were drawn into Wiccan practices and pedophilia. He tried to make the point that you become more evil over time by joining these groups, and they lead you down other dark paths like witchcraft and pedophilia and stuff like that, which makes sense since all the top people in the Reich are pedophiles. So makes total sense. And most of the major tech bros are pedophiles, so they're probably Masons too. The reason why we can't get rid of them. They're too connected. They in the club, son. Or they got CIA and Masonry ties. And they all into Satan, coincidentally. They all into pedophilia, coincidentally. And this man mentions it. And he's going to mention it again. Because he became a born-again Christian at later stages of this, and he began counseling people that were in this world. I mean, this man had so many stories. He studied to be a priest. He went to seminary to be a Catholic priest. He was a deacon at a church. I mean, just all the while being a Satanist, being a Freeman. I mean, just constant going back and forth, never really leaving it. Just getting into a different version of it, starting with witchcraft. So some Masons would come to him over the years saying they got drawn into these other things, looking for help, looking for counseling. Oh, I forgot to talk about, or maybe it's in the second part here. Let me look before I go all into it. Oh, okay, it's in the end, or I'll save it for the end. He explained how for women, the Masonic order is the Order of the Eastern Star, like I was telling you, and it was that gravestone. I was waiting for him to say the pentagram, and he said the inverted pentagram is their symbol. That's straight up satanic. That's the goat, son. That's Baphomet. We all know it. Always been. That's why the devil inverts it. Loves inverting reality, inverting the star, inverting everything. Good is evil and evil is good. That's the devil. I showed you straight up on camera in the Periscope years ago. The gravestone. Woman's gravestone. Upside down pentagram on it. And one of you said, yeah, that's the female Freemasons, Order of the Eastern Star. Oh. He corroborated it. He agrees. Symbol is inverted pentagram. The first part of American Freemasonry is a Blue Lodge or Scottish Freemason, whatever it is. That's your first 3 steps, your introduction to it. Then you got to move. You got to make a choice. You move on to the Scottish Rite or the York Rite. In other words, you either move on to Scottish Freemasonry or Americanized Freemasonry. You have to choose. The York Rite, according to him, has 7 degrees, but then later on he talked about York Rite Masons that are 10th degree and how you're allowed to go from 10th degree York Rite Mason, because that's their highest level, to 33rd degree Mason if you want to. The Scottish Rite has 29, but then he spoke of 32 is the highest you can go, and then they can offer you a 33rd degree if they feel you are notable, important enough. If they want to give it to you, they can offer it to you. And then you could come in for the ritual or whatever, and then you're a 33rd. He said that's mostly given to more notable, important figures, political, movie star, like very big people. He said he made it to 33rd himself. Top of the York Rite is Knights Templar. That's what Pete Hegseth thinks he is. So he's probably a York Rite Freemason or something. He comes from the Wright family. He's a Princeton man. Yeah, he's probably in that shit. And that's what he believes. He believes he's on some type of crusade. Some degrees are creepy, the man said. 19th degree in Scottish Freemasonry attempts to invoke the devil. That's a ritual they attempt at 19th degree, according to him. 32nd degree is as high as you can go unless you are an important figure. Then you get offered 33rd degree. European Masonry then comes in to the story. And he said there's 360 degrees. And at the time, because he got into the European Masonry as well, he was a 96th level, he says. And then a Mason from France came and explained to him I'm trying to get this right, hold on. That sexual abuse of children was for everlasting life, and the person was helping him in his transition from 96 to 97th degree. European Mason, I guess we'll call it. Should really be called Egyptian. So the 97th degree is called the Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret. The initiate, now in his late 20s, asked the older Masons what the secret is. They said they don't know. Now, when he talked about this, he explained that they could have just been lying to me. They didn't just want to straight up tell me. They wanted to pretend they didn't know. He's probably right. Because who wants to say that out loud and have someone walk out of the room and say they said it out loud? It's a very sensitive thing to say. What the secret is, according to this man. So he asks them, they say, we don't know. The initiate eventually learns that the royal secret is the sexual vampirization of children can make you live forever. Again, this is what he said. And coincidentally, we hear stories. They point fingers at liberals with this for the past 30 years, but we know the truth now. We hear stories of babies and blood drinking and all that, and abuse of children. And we have a whole cabinet full of pedophiles. And coincidentally, he says, that's what the Mason's about. At the high level. Because when you first invite an initiate in at 18, 19 years old, you can't have him start drinking baby's blood right away. Or say he's worshiping Satan right away. You got to ease the motherfucker into that. You know? That's why they do it that way. And in the movie, The Good Shepherd, a part that this guy did not talk about, which I guarantee is part of the ritual. I believe what they showed in The Good Shepherd. I was amazed they showed the stuff, actually. One of the best movies about the CIA and how that little club thing works from the time they're all young men and what families they grow up in, and that establishes where they are at in the hierarchy of the ruling class. It showed how the new initiates, when they get invited into the club, Mason, Skull and Bone, whatever it is, the right families. Whether in college, they get invited into the club. And one of the first things that happens is you have to admit something about yourself, something horrible that you don't want anyone to know, that would damage you utterly. They want that at openers. So they can use that against you the rest of your life if you step out of line. In other words, a secret to keep you in line. That was shown. Matt Damon played the role in the movie. That was shown, him laying naked or in his underwear on the table. And they ask you, you got to tell them, you got to give them something. You can't join the club without giving them something. Guarantee that was part of the process. So you got to give them something right away. So they got you. So as they're easing you into this hard shit, if whatever industry you're in, maybe you're in government, they're asking you for favors, they're asking you to do certain things, they expect you to do certain things, they know this compromat gonna keep you in line. That's why they get it from you right up front. And you can't join without it. So that's another way to ease you into all this. You really don't have a choice unless you want that really damaging information about yourself to come out. So the sexual vampirization of children can make you live forever. That's what he learned. That's the secret, according to him. Side note, the term ceremonial magician was used all throughout the story. The initiate said that in his Satanist days, he was taught that Satan gets energy from those that worship him. Most low-level occultists and Masons have no idea what they're actually a part of, a satanic religion. The initiate was asked how he sold his soul, because he told a story earlier in the interview that he had to literally sell his soul. He had to do that. The initiate was told if he wanted to be a high-level satanic priest, he had to sell his soul. An actual ritual. This is before the Freemasonry. His Satanist friends in Chicago took him to a park in broad daylight. They explained to him, you don't have to worry, because most of the cops here are Satanists, that they belong, they with us. He also explained how Chicago was like a mecca of Satanism. I didn't know that. The section of the park was strange with Egyptian statues. A satanic priest oversaw the process. The initiate swore his allegiance to Satan for 7 years. He did this on some type of satanic black Bible, something like that. Satan would then in turn give power, women, whatever you wanted. Money, occult power. He believed in this, I could tell by the life he led and all the pursuits. He was looking for occult type power to do magic, I guess. It was obvious by his story. He didn't have to say it. So the typical standard thing, you join a bunch of Satanists, they say, hey, you got to pledge your life to Satan, son. You can't just join in. If you want to be high level, you want to really be about this thing. So they do the ritual, they act it out. And he explains the parameters of the deal. 7 years, after 7, Satan can collect and you go to hell. Now, the reason why this wasn't that scary to them is their concept of hell with Satan, their god, was a never-ending orgy, party, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's what he said. So their view of hell wasn't a scary one for them. That's what they did. They did sex, drugs, orgies, I guess rock and roll too. I don't know. And they worshiped Satan, and they did rituals, and they wore the clothes, and they danced naked, and they did all of it. So hell wasn't a scary place for them. That's why this deal wasn't frightening to them. Oh, he also had to write in blood his name in a black book, he said. Then the initiate had to find 7 people and convince them to sell their soul like he did. And he went out and did it. Over time, he found 7 people, convinced them to join up and take the same pledge. And he said that always bothered him that he did that. He said he's tried to find some of them and say sorry and talk them out of it. And he has talked to some of them. So, son, these clubs are real. I don't want them to be. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't make me feel special talking about it. I'm trying to tell you and show you that there is a segment of this population, a quite large one, who belong to these different clubs, if not a few of them. And occult, witchcraft, Satanism goes hand in hand with Freemasonry. The same people are in the two. And they believe the same thing, whether they realize it or not. He also said that. It's all satanic worship, all of it. Whether you understand that or not, meaningless. Now we're going to look at, he spoke of this European sect of Freemasonry that he got involved in at the end. The ancient and primitive rite of Memphis Misraim is a system of Egyptian Freemasonry, because that's the real origin of it, let's be honest, son. That's where all the symbols come from. That's how I know. I didn't have to do 9 years of research. I know where the eye comes from. I know where the obelisk. I know where the pyramid. Simple. Established in 1881 by merging the rites of Misraim 1805 and Memphis 1838, often associated with Giuseppe Garibaldi, known for its 99-degree structure, often worked as 95 or 90, an esoteric, hermetic, and occult focus. It differs from regular Freemasonry by allowing mixed-gender lodges. This guy called it European. He used this exact phrase, Memphis Misraim. That last sect of Freemasonry that he got involved in. He said it had 360 degrees. They're saying it has 99 here. Not that it matters that much, but... The origin, created in Naples, Italy, the rite combined the 90-degree rite of Misraim and the 92-degree rite of Memphis, merging them in 1881. It is characterized as a high degree or philosophical system, often called Egyptian Freemasonry, due to its focus on Hermetic philosophy, Neoplatonism, and Kabbalah. While it boasts up to 99 degrees, many of these are conferred administratively, with active working typically focused on a select few. It is often considered a progressive or universal rite rather than a regular one. Degrees include titles like Sublime Sage of the Pyramids, 49, and Patriarch of Truth, 68 degree. The final degrees, 88 to 90, are sometimes known as the Arcana Arcanorum. Arcanorum. Arcana Arcanorum. And the guy talked about Sublime, whatever name I gave you a minute ago. The names he mentioned were very similar to those. So that guy knows something here. Whether his stories are true or not. It exists worldwide. Active jurisdictions, France, Italy, South America, often operates independently of mainstream Grand Lodges. So just like in every religion, every club, be it satanic or of Christ or whatever, there's all these different sects and they all battle in each other, I guess, for utter supremacy. And there always has been different sects of Freemasonry, and yes, they've always fought each other. Every group wants to be the one in control, right? The rite focuses heavily on the study of esoteric principles and personal inner development, often described as a mystical order rather than just a social or philanthropic society. No, they're Satan worshipers, son. They don't talk about God. They talk about the grand architect. They don't talk about love and charity and forgiveness. They talk about coming into the light of knowledge. And eventually they talk about we got to do things to children because it gives us some type of special satanic power, occult power, or long life. And there are millions probably involved in this. How do I put this? You may not take the spiritual world seriously. You may not think there's a God, care there's a God, care there's a devil, think there's a devil. These people that run the world, they do. They know there's a God. They know there's a devil. They choose the devil. Why? Because the devil gives them shit here. God doesn't. God let Jesus starve for 40 days, son. God let Jesus be nailed to a cross. God let Jesus be whipped to a bloody pulp of nothing. So there ain't much glory in working for God, son. It's a rough-ass road. Not a big selling point. Riches, power, money, women, men, whatever you're into, children, that is a selling point. Very tempting, very appealing for a lot of people. So to go the route of Satan and worshiping him is a very tempting one when you're here. Who wants to slave, for generation or for a generation and build their empire slowly and the hard way when you can have it like that? So I understand why it's so tempting. The problem is you end up in the goddamn lake. That's the problem. The real point here. You don't have to believe it, son. I don't have to believe it. You don't have to be into religion. You don't have to think there's a devil. You don't have to think there's a God. You can think there's not a devil and a God. You can be an atheist. You can think all these things. The problem is they believe it with all their being and they live it. So if they're so dedicated to the devil, son, they feel they need to do the most abominable things to children and God knows what else. They have to. It's part of the ritual. It's part of how you get what you want at these higher levels. It's the religion. It's the belief system. Our founding fathers were part of this as well. So what were they doing? Behind closed doors. In their little rituals. Were they just as vile as the ones today that run our country? Verified pedophiles, I could name 4 or 5 in the cabinet, and the president, and the vice president. There's this common thread of Satanism and touching kids. The same beliefs this satanic group called the Freemasons believe at the high levels. An interesting coincidence. So we're not licking all these pedophiles, Oz and all. Were they doing it just because they liked it? Or were they doing it for something else? Maybe some grew to like it. Maybe some liked it before they began. Maybe some just do it for the ritual and what it gives them and what, son, the religion requires. What the devil requires. What greater sin is there to hurt than to hurt a child in that way? So, of course, the devil will be all about it. And his main people up at the top, Donnie Shitbags and all them. And the devil's favorite club, the Freemasons. Of course they'd be about it. One more time, I want to reiterate this, and then I gotta go. And I might do the politics video after this. I don't know. If I feel like it. You don't have to be into God or the devil. You can walk around thinking you're smarter. You don't buy that dumb bullshit. There's no God, there's no devil, it's ridiculous. I'm a scientist or an atheist or I'm this. I'm a witch. I'm enlightened. The problem is, again, son, it doesn't require your belief or mine or acceptance For all the people that run the world, that are in the club, they believe it. They practice the rituals. They touch the children. They worship Satan straight up. And they have all the key positions. So you must ask yourself, son, if you're smart, why do all these high-level people throw their soul in the gutter and outright openly worship Satan as much as they can get away with? Like Leon wearing his Baphomet crest. That wasn't a mistake in any way, shape, or form. That was a plan. That was a religion. And the God with the little g is Satan. This has been going on since the dawn of time in various ways. Then it became an institution. He also talked about how the Mormon Church is utterly based on Freemasonry, and they do a lot of the same rituals or pseudo-versions of them. And that Joseph Smith was a Freemason. And that's how it all happened. And when he explained the rituals and what they do, yeah. This man went from witch to Satanist to Freemason, all the different sects of Freemasonry, and then he got into the Mormon Church, and they were doing all the kind of Freemasonic shit. No crosses. Because it ain't about Jesus, son. Not that a cross is required, that's a symbol. God and Jesus don't really like symbols, or images, if you will. But back to the question. Every genius walking around saying, I don't buy none of that. That's all mumbo-jumbo bullshit. You don't have to buy it. Irrelevant, meaningless. The people that run this world, the people that have always run it, they believe it. They do the rituals again. They get down on their knees and worship Satan. And they say it out loud, and they believe it, and they all about it. And they feel by doing that, and there's evidence to back that up. They feel by doing that, that gives them the opportunity for the power, the money, the women, whether you're a man or whatever you're interested in, sexually. Also occult power, untouchability. And of course, what does every Satanist and witch want? Long life, everlasting youth. That's what they believe. And if they make that deal with their imp, they get special treatment down here. They get to be Peter Thale or Leon Scum that just gets handed $500 billion. You know what I'm saying? All they got to do is touch kids, practice Satanism, go to the club meetings, be part of the religion, pledge their life to the imp. They believe it. They do it. They go to the buildings. They perform the rituals. They touch the children. They believe it, son. So, son, if all these super powerful people that run everything and got all the good jobs and all the money and make all the rules, if they feel so strongly that they need to live this life of worshiping the devil and be part of all these clubs and rituals and touch children, if they're willing to do all that, if they feel so strongly about it, they are compelled to do the rituals. They have to. Otherwise, they lose what they got. They believe it that strongly. And they coincidentally are not only Satan worshipers, they run the world too and actually do have all the key positions. So you don't need to believe. It still is. Otherwise, all these filthy rich fucking people wouldn't be doing satanic rituals behind closed doors. There is evidence again in Scripture of this concept. Christ in the desert, starving. And the devil says, as he's in this starvation state, where temptation would be very easy for a man, wouldn't it? All you have to do is give him a cracker. And he'd probably do anything. But this is Christ. He's a bit better than the rest of us. The devil says to Christ in his starvation state, knowing he's weak, desperate, I'll give you the whole world, son, if you just bow down, kneel down, and worship me. So even in the Bible, if we believe it's true, if we believe it's real, which what I'm seeing before me, son, there is evidence of this concept that the devil has dominion here. And if you make a deal with him, maybe it'll work out for him. Maybe you might get all them things you're looking for. Right now. And he has the authority to give it to you. Here. He rules here. So in Scripture, we see that concept. In Freemasonry and satanic witchcraft and all that, we see that concept. You got to make this deal. So Christ and the Word of God says that's real. That concept, that happened, that does happen. You can make a deal with the devil. Even Jesus Christ could have made the deal, and the devil did have the authority to give him the whole world if he wanted to. If Christ would have did what he asked. But he didn't, because he's Christ. Christ would never worship the devil, no matter what. And he proved that. So again, we have this concept in Christian Scripture. We have this concept in the realm of Satanism, Freemasonry, and witchcraft. That I just got to make a deal with the devil and things will go my way. Now, I will say this, because not everyone can get the lottery ticket, right? He explained throughout his life, he never really had much success. He was a security guard. He worked at a retail store. I mean, when did he have time? He spent so much time in the occult world and, moving up the hierarchy of fucking whatever he could find. When did he have time for a job? Now, he talked about a marriage. He talked about working full time, and he never really had any money. He's like, the Satanism and all this ain't get me nowhere. And he said he used to renew his subscription for $10 a year to this satanic church. They would send out a newsletter or something. And he said someone from the post office, someone in the chain of mail wrote on it when it came. The check. You used to get a copy of your checks way back in the day. I'm old enough to remember that, but that was when I was really young. The bank, when you wrote a check, you would get a copy like mailed back to you or something like that as a receipt of it or something. I can't remember. So that was a thing. So when he got the check back, I guess someone at the bank or someone in that chain wrote on it, something about Jesus and God and, and from that moment, that's when he joined the Mormon church and he realized they're Freemasonic and they're wrong. And then he finally became a born again in that process at the end. That's his story. I don't know if I buy it all. But I could tell he spent his entire life learning about the occult hierarchy. He just lived it. He was all about it. And it's obvious in every word he says. But he's not the smartest guy. And he seems very naive, even at his old age. I'm glad he's a born-again Christian. That is a real thing. And you'll know it when it happens. It can't really be explained. That's kind of the route I took. It was more of a thing that I changed at a certain point because I asked for it. Because I was very low at the time. And unlike a lot of you out there, I wasn't finding any fulfillment working various jobs and being around various human beings. Almost everyone's a disappointment, quite honestly. And I've always felt that way. I never understood why. It's because this realm is shit of the devil in entropy. That's why. There's nothing good here. Absolutely nothing. This is the devil's realm. No, it's not hell. It's close to goddamn enough, though. So in closing, you might not take the spiritual world and the devil and God seriously, but these motherfucking Satanists and Freemasons do. To the point they make literal out loud deals with the devil. They take oaths to the devil. They touch kids. They do all kinds of wonderful things. And they just happen to be running the world. Now, this specific guy didn't get any riches out of it or power or clout. But a lot do. And that's why they do it. So for some, it works. So if they believe it and it works, making that deal. Even though you don't take God or the devil seriously or care whatsoever about it, because you're too smart. How do you explain that? Why do the people that run this world take that so seriously? If it's nothing. Because it's not nothing. And they believe it, son, and they practice it, and there's an entire network of them, and they are everywhere. They're at the low levels in the police force, all the way up to the highest levels of politics and government and industry. And they live this life out in front of us. They act like normal people, as normal as they can. Behind closed doors, it's a goddamn freak show. And it's real. You need to ask yourself why it's real if you don't buy any of this stuff. Why did they take it so seriously? And why does it work for them? If there's no God and no devil. So you better recognize part of your paradigm is a spiritual realm, whether we like it or not. And there is a God who is in charge, and there is a devil who's in charge of this right here, until God doesn't allow him to be in charge anymore. Because that's the only one that can stop it. That's the only one that will stop it. Been the devil's world since day one. No human has ever had the power to stop it. So if they take it so seriously, why don't you? That's the point of this. Have a wonderful evening, and don't take the mark, and don't become a Freemason or a witch or a Satanist. Have a good day. And if you got a Ouija board in your house, get the fuck rid of it. Have a wonderful evening.